Hi, we're Ralph and Lonnie, and we're back with a forecast for April of 2026, but I have a few announcements to make before we get started. Gremlins were at work or something. There's a couple of mistakes on the grid of April 2026. The first one is in the first week. There is a void of course on the 2nd, not the 3rd. Somehow the box for the void of course got onto the 3rd. That is not the void of course day. It is the 2nd. So that's number 1. Number 2, on the 17th, there should be an asterisk. There is a paragraph in the description, in the forecast, that relates to number 17, but there's no physical asterisk on that box. And then on the 19th, somehow a black box snuck in there. It's not supposed to be a black box. It's not even supposed to be an outline for a gray box. In fact, it could almost be another white circle day.
Yes, almost.
We don't know how that happened. I just don't know. I don't want to fire the typesetter.
No.
I've grown accustomed to his face.
Okay.
So those are the couple of announcements that I had before we go on to April, which is an eventful month. And I'm going to let Ralph start out by reading the introductory paragraph of the forecast.
So eventful. And I don't know why I'm reading it because you wrote it, but I will read it for you.
Well, that's why you're reading it.
Okay. We don't like to really have black box days outnumber the white circles if the planets would only cooperate. But planetary dynamics have shifted. Last year's gray box days were replaced with an outline box around the date to denote the long void of course. And now, even a new outline around the black box brings those extra bumps in the road to your attention. So seize the day with 3 white circles in a row and maybe plan a week off starting on the 19th, because that week will be a doozy. Yes.
I know that I plan to get on a plane and go to Cancun or something, wiggle my toes in the sand or whatever so that I don't even care about what's going on that week, because it makes me tired just to look at it.
It's wild. It is wild.
But any month that starts off with a black box,
yes,
you kind of expect
on
that.
On April Fool's Day. That's just so sad. Oh, my God.
Exactly.
But it is the full moon, and it's the full moon taking place at 12 degrees Libra. So if you have anything at 12 degrees Aries or 12 degrees Libra, we're talking to you. Okay, because it's right on your numbers.
Really, anything cardinal also.
Anything
so
cardinal.
That's Capricorn, Cancer.
And look to see where it's landing in your chart, those particular houses, because those parts of your life, those parts of your life will get lit up.
Well, and of course, the fact that it's the full moon is underscored by the other oppositions that the moon will be making to Neptune and Saturn, particularly Saturn in this case, in terms of how much it's going to affect you personally. That trine to Pluto, I don't think you're even going to feel that. And who knows what that would manifest like in your chart anyway. Pluto is unpredictable, not as unpredictable as Uranus, but unpredictable anyway.
Now, the thing about it is that the sun is not quite, it's kind of loosely conjunct that Saturn-Neptune conjunction that's making all the astrologers lose their minds, ourselves not included. We've been
Speak for yourself.
Well, we have a longer perspective, you might say. We've been doing this such a long time.
We're just losing our minds because we're heavy working into the 2027 calendar, so we don't know who we are or where we are. So if we misspeak a date, you'll know why.
The other day, I was
and forgive us.
I was autographing a book and putting the date on it, and I wrote 2027. So,
what can I say?
What can I say? But that first day with those big oppositions going on, remember the oppositions to the moon during the course of the day, it's going to be a very polarizing time. And be aware, there's a lot of that going on right now, but it's a very polarizing time right now.
So get out your pen if you have the calendar and make the correction on the 2nd.
Right.
Put a little outline around the number 2 and kind of cross it out on number 3, because number 2 is going to be that long void of course all day. It's all day long. It starts at 1:55 in the morning And to add insult to injury, the moon is throwing a square to Jupiter at the same time. So
the third is actually kind of nice because you got a Mercury trine Jupiter, and that's like that. Those are usually really kind of interesting, good days for communications, for coming up with ideas. You do also have Venus square Pluto, but that's not quite as significant. It's more so global.
And both Venus and Pluto are below the number, indicating hard aspects to the moon. So that whole Venus-Pluto thing is really messing up that day.
But then on the Saturday, you have a nice lunar aspects, which are nice. It means a nice social day. Get out there and enjoy. Same thing on Sunday, nice lunar aspects.
Isn't that nice how the fourth mirrors the third in terms of is a Mercury-Jupiter trine, and then both those Mercury and Jupiter are both trine the moon once the moon changes sign.
I think that Sun square Jupiter on the Sunday is really very significant because it's the Sun, which has a lot to do with, kind of central governments. Jupiter has a lot to do with religion, with philosophers. And I think with the events we're seeing right now, there is a real squaring off between between the peacemakers and the war makers. And I think that's one of the ways it's going to come up. And it's really going to be prevalent on Easter Sunday, which is the time when a lot of the priests speak out. This is one of their big times, and Easter happens to be my favorite holiday of the year. So, I would hope that we had better aspects for that.
And you're born in the year of the rabbit.
It's true, right? It's true. Yes, we are. And then Easter Monday. So you have nice aspects all the way through there, nice social aspects over there on the 7th. You got that nice sun trine moon. That's so lovely. And a little square Mercury with the moon in Sagittarius. So this first part of the week is real nice. And then you get to the 9th.
Well, the 8th is starting to throw you some squares there. So you get a sort of a little hint about what's coming on for the 9th.
And you got the Mars sextile Uranus, which is a little bit... It's a little wild.
Could be good.
It's a little wild. And then you get Mars entering Aries, its own very social, dynamic sign. Here when the Sun is in Aries too. So now you got the Mars is going to be passing over that Saturn-Jupiter conjunction that's been going on for a while. So a lot of martial energy in its dynamic sign, not its responsive sign.
Well, and I think that's a good thing. I mean, it can be energizing. It can be a burst of what the heck was that kind of energy. Yeah. But, when Mars is in the sign of rulership, it acts the way it's supposed to be.
True.
So it's not like a day that you're going to oh, ho-hum, I don't feel like doing anything. You're going to want to have the impetus to do something, to act, to get involved.
To be physically active, to get out the door, to speak up,
And this whole time that Mars is in Aries, remember Aries rules the head, so be careful of your head, headaches, bumping your head, being headstrong, all these things that have to do with your head will be highlighted while Mars is in Aries.
It's interesting when you know people who have Mars in Aries, it's real evident.
Oh yeah,
it's such they're
sometimes they're red-faced a little. Yeah. They have a little,
but their way of walking and such is very poised. It's very right there, like kind of like a ram walking along. Yeah, it's very forward. It's Mars in Aries is like the salesperson sign, and then you have. On the Friday, you have a group of nice lunar aspects. And then you get to the week of the 12th. Ta-da!
3 white circle days in a row. When does that ever happen?
Yes.
I like to have them spread out a little bit, but having this block like this really bodes well for maybe a project that takes a little bit of time. I don't know why, but moving jumped into my head. Like you could move over a weekend or, a long holiday weekend or something like that. And you'd have this new opportunity opening up for you because you've changed jobs, start a new job on the Monday or, anything like something that takes over a couple of days.
Yeah, and you got that on the Sunday, of course, you got the Mars conjunct Neptune, which should be really interesting. Watch what's happening there because Neptune is a very energized planet. People think of it as, it's the planet of Pisces and it's dreamy and intuition. That it doesn't really act that way. If you look at it in people's charts and you look at it in terms of transit, that's not really the way it acts. That's kind of a misinterpretation. It has a lot to do with what's below the surface, because you can't see it without a telescope, but it's very energizing. And you have Mars conjuncting it in Aries. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on about energy and fuel, and which of course we're going through that right now, and we're doing this it's still March, right? So we've lost track of the year a little bit, but there's a lot of stuff going on with that now. I think it's going to be hitting a peak about then.
Well, and instead of, to go back to that misinterpretation, I think a lot of the interpretations about the outer planets came about because people wanted to personalize those energies just the way that they personalize the energies for the personal planets, but we don't experience the outer planets in that way. In fact, we don't experience the outer planets as a single entity.
Right.
We experience them as a group.
Right.
And so if you understand that, you realize that they have a much more broad and profound group effect than they have individual effects.
Now, if you've read our book, Reclaiming Astrology from the Patriarchy, you know our feelings about the interpretations of the rulerships and the connection that they did to that, which was really spitballing because they knew nothing about these planets when they gave them signs. I mean, they had done no real research.
They didn't have ephemeris. They didn't know where they had been before, what kinds of events had happened at a time when they were in whatever configuration with another.
They didn't go to
meaning
the NSA.
The other planets.
Yeah, right.
Right.
They just they worked basically from using psychics and using
off the cuff
mythology, and this astrology is based on geometry.
And if there's one thing I know, it's those three big outer planets don't fit in a box.
No, oh my gosh, no. Well, we could put Pluto in a little box, but not that little.
I like Pluto, and he's still a planet, and always will be, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, Pluto relates a tremendous amount to the internet, to AI, and computers are to all things you happen to love. So,
and Pluto's about hidden power, the power you never even knew you had,
like to blog,
and how your power increases when you match up your power with other people in the same, and things like the women's movement and things like that are really dependent on that group Pluto power to move ahead.
Now that those three white circles kind of reach a culmination on the 14th, really nice transits. Venus sextile Jupiter on the Monday, and then on the Tuesday, Mercury follows Mars into Aries. Now, Mercury and Mars have been traveling together for a while, making aspects one after the other. And this is Mercury's like the little brother, and Mars is like the big brother. And suddenly they've gone into Aries together. And someone just put money in their pockets instead, and firecrackers maybe. So expect things to get a little lively there. And of course, then on the 15th, on the tax day, everyone's going to be calling their accounting because you look at all those aspects. Look at all those lunar aspects.
All those personal aspects to the moon. That's going to be and emotionally, but they're above the number. So I think it's emotionally satisfying. Either you're all getting big refunds or you are breathing a sigh of relief because you got them filed on time. Either way, it's going to be a sigh of relief.
Right, and then on the next day, on the 16th, Mercury is going to conjunct Neptune. So once again, watch that period of time because it may give you clues about how Neptune is acting in your chart. And then you have the new moon on the 17th. We actually wrote something about there, even though we left the asterisk off.
Well, and you didn't even read the asterisks for the 12th, 13th, and 14th, but I'm sure you covered that when you expound.
We pontificated.
And who pontificates better than Ralph?
No, Jupiter in the 9th house. I got a talent for that. Okay, new moon on the 17th. What do we say about that? At 27 degrees Aries. So where's that in your chart? Okay. Amps up the Aries theme of the month with now 6 planets. The Sun, Moon, Saturn, Mars, Mercury, and Neptune, all in this take action sign. Don't be surprised if you're totally exhausted by the time Sunday rolls around. This is a very good time to focus on yourself and get in touch with your essential interests. Aries is a lot about concentrating things within a person. That it's that fool stepping off the cliff. It's that shepherd leading their flock out into the field. They lead from the front. They're bold, they're brash, they're a little reckless, but they're there. Where are you there with your interests?
And because it's Aries, I think you should get out your red pen or marker right now and make a nice big red asterisk on there so you don't miss the potential for that day.
Where's my pen? Right. Okay. And then the next thing that comes up, of course, is on the 19th when the sun is going to enter the sign of Taurus, which was originally Bovis, the cow.
And I don't know how you're going to fix that without a sticker, because that is not a black box by any stretch of the imagination. I know. It was a gremlin.
Yes.
It was some kind of gremlin came in and changed that, because there's no way that was a black box.
Now, here's a little thing for you. When you look at those lunar aspects, look at them closely. For instance, if you look at that one, you'll notice that the first three are Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto.
Again.
Right? And then it goes to Mercury, Saturn, and Mars. Now, you have both personal planets, you have social planets, social being the Saturn and Jupiter, and then you have the outer planets, which are the global planets, all in a series. One of the things that's happened since the discovery of these outer planets is we have become much more unified as a planet. In other words, we watch the same movies that people in China watch, or people in Malaysia watch, or people in Africa watch, maybe different dubbing, different languages, but we're seeing many of the same things. When things happen globally, more and more people know about it.
Right.
And that's what those outer planets. So here we're seeing something about, we're feeling it personally and we're feeling it globally during that new ingress.
Right.
And remember, this is the ingress of, when the calves were born, when the cow herds would bring their cattle out into the fields. And this was the greatest form of mobile wealth in traditional societies, the cattle.
I think now people are finally understanding that saying that if the butterfly flutters his wings in the Sahara Desert, it has an effect on our side of the earth. At least you can visualize that now with these planets giving you more global outlook.
Well, it's funny because we live in Napa, California, Napa and Sonoma, and we've seen a lot of vines ripped out. It's just they're reducing the overamount of vines. Well, I keep saying we're going to start seeing cattle out there, because the last time that this happened, which was back in the time of the Prohibition, that's what they brought when they had extra fields. They brought cattle in because it's, like grapes, a relatively low effort, high profit field.
Those cattle take care of themselves.
They do, especially out here where you have green
Not
grass.
the milk cows, which
No,
is
not
another
milk cows,
story
no.
altogether, but those cattle.
Yes. Now, it's interesting, on the 20th, that is a day-long void of quartz.
And therein lies the rub. In fact, that should be a black box with the white, with the outline around it. Well, because I think that even though you have all those wonderful aspects to Mercury, I think Mercury is going to feel thwarted, because number one, the moon is in the sign of Mercury.
Yes.
And Mercury has all these great connections to Saturn and to Mars, and yet he has nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And that's when Mercury can act up the most, when he feels like somebody's holding his hand too tight or restricting what he wants to do. So maybe, just maybe, it was just one day off, and it was supposed to be that black box on there, and your hand just slipped. Your hand just slipped.
Mea culpa.
And you put the black box on the other day.
Mea culpa. I will say one thing about that day, which is interesting, because it is Mercury. Mercury, Gemini is better at being distracted to most signs. And, the thing about the void, of course, it's like wandering. They're wandering around. They kind of don't have a strong agenda. But what is going on here is that all these aspects are happening between planets, and it's Saturn, Mars, and Mercury. And they're all in fire signs. Now, Mercury and Saturn are both masculine planets, are dynamic planets. And the reason we say that is of the 6 signs that they relate to, 4 of them are masculine. Mars is seen as a masculine planet, but it's not. Because if you add up the 6 signs that it relates to, 4 of them are feminine. Mars in Scorpio, aka the eagle, is actually a stronger position than Mars in Aries, because, among other things, it's more strategic. So you have a feminine planet and 2 masculine planets all making conjunctions, but they're in a masculine sign. So there is going to be a tendency for overdoing it, for over more aggression for that type of thing. So I would watch out. I would be very careful driving. I'd be very careful shopping. I'd be careful with how you handle your money because it's Mercury, and Mercury has a tendency towards larceny.
And didn't he just make my case for making that a black box day?
Oh, yes.
I think so.
I think so. I think you're so right.
But that void of course extends over into the morning of the 21st, although I have to say, and on the East Coast, that is 3 hours later, so that would be 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So at least the morning is also under that long void of course.
Right.
But I think they just needed to get scooted over.
And then you get to the late part of the week, the 23rd and the 25th, 2 more black boxes, and the whole end of the week just goes a little wacky because you got Venus is going to be entering Gemini on the Thursday, the 23rd, right? Where you've got Venus is also going to be conjuncting, is going to conjunct Uranus on the same day.
Well, and I get sad when I see Venus leaving her beloved Taurus because she really enjoys Taurus. Now, Gemini, she can get chatty and flirty, and that's more fun than her other transitions. But this one, there's a little bit of sadness to leave the Taurus energy behind.
On the other hand, as she moves out of this particular part of the sky, that particular part of the sky from like 25, 28 degrees of Taurus into the first degrees of there, you're going from the Pleiades
and the Hyades.
The Algol, the Pleiades, and then the Hyades in the early part of Gemini, which is the weeping sister. So the faster that she gets past that particular territory, the more things will lighten up.
True.
Now that conjunction of Venus conjunct Uranus is happening right at the very last degrees of Taurus, because 2 days later, on the 25th, is when Uranus enters Gemini. What did you say about that? That must be significant. 25th.
Everything I said was significant.
Black box, void of course day. This new symbol from us seems tailor-made by Uranus entering Gemini. Look for the black box and outline box, formerly the gray box around it. Means it's difficult day and it's void of course. This marks a paradigm shift. The last time Uranus entered Gemini was on the eve of World War II, and to the day when women were officially became part of the American military. It's a kind of amazing coincidence.
Now, just to clarify, he was talking about that. I think it looks like really cool with the 25 with the frame around
it's very
the black
stylish.
box. It really
it's
looks
very stylish,
jaunty. I really like that. And so just to clarify, he keeps saying that, but this year we reversed roles and I wrote the forecast part.
Yes.
So feel free to drop a little or a
how
little.
much you love them.
Mention whether you like it or not, whether you want Ralph to do them for 2027. Oops, too late.
Omit the or not.
Or not.
Yes, they're really wonderful. They're a lot of fun and they're very insightful this year. So
he often gives it to me to fun it up anyway.
Yes, exactly. Well, it's a very complex process we go through because there's a whole technical side to it and then there's a whole interpretive side to it, which is the nature of astrology.
And then there's a whole proofreader, Virgo and nitpicking, whatever side to it. And if we space that, then we get a little black box where it's not supposed to be.
And we do proof these things, but they just slip through sometimes.
Dozens of times.
But this Uranus going into Gemini is a big thing, and it had already gone in there and then retrograded back out during the last year. And, we had this little burst of it. Now we get it for the next 8 years. And every 84 years, it enters the sign. It stays there for 8 years. So where is it going through in your chart? Because to a certain extent, Uranus is like those ultrasonic cleaners that you drop jewelry into and it just shakes everything and it knocks all the crap off and makes it all fresh and bright again. When you get Uranus opposition, which is age 39, 40, 41, is when Uranus is opposite where it was when you were born. The Kundalini energy comes up in your spine and tries to blow the top of your head off. Now, if you're very creative and flexible and, excited about life, you go, oh, well, this is all my opportunities just opened up. Now, if you're very locked down and really saying, I'm trying to follow the rules, then it really does blow the top of your head off and people end up with all kinds of difficulties. But it's real important with Uranus transits to be open to the new. So where is it going in your chart? That's very important. If you don't know, you can contact us. We can calculate a chart for you, tell you where it's traveling to. But it's a very powerful transit. Every 84 years, the United States was founded with Uranus in Gemini. It's a very young, Gemini is the young person. Uranus is a new approach to young people. And so much of what was important done in the United States in terms of our inventions were done by young people. Even now I saw a thing in Forbes where the new 20-something billionaires, there was a whole group of young people who'd come up with a series of apps that the company had just capitalized at $1 billion. So much of it is done by young people. I mean, we have this Senate and Congress, the Senate, where they're all senior citizens practically.
You mean they're young like us, right?
Right.
Okay.
But I mean, a lot of them are quite a bit older than us. But if you actually look in industry, the innovators, they're young people. And the United States has always had that kind of particular genius. So as Uranus goes through here, we're going to have disruption in the United States. Those Uranus transits are undeniable. But the United States typically comes out of it better at the end of the Uranus transit than they went in at the beginning. So be aware of that. There is something hopeful about that. And we are talking about doing a 5-year projection about where we're going to in the next 5 years, because this year, 2026, is a very difficult year. It's very climatic in many ways. But one of the ways in which you can have hope about it is by looking ahead and saying, well, where are we going to from here?
Right.
And we know from the charts from 2027 that there's some very hopeful things in there.
It's a lot easier to go through trying times if you know that there's a reason for it and what it's going to lead
Exactly.
you to.
Exactly. So once you get past that transit, that final part of the week is really lightweight. It's kind of nice as we head towards the next. I think the next full moon is on the 1st, is on May 1st. So we get past that transit on the 25th. Then that's all.
Well, and watch out for the 27th though, because the moon is again in a Mercury ruled sign.
Yes.
Of Virgo when it's void, of course, the entire day.
Yeah. Yes.
The entire day, no matter what coast you're on. So
exactly.
Watch out for stubbing your toe on that day.
One of the things that's interesting about this month is that there's no retrograde planets. Everything is moving forward. And whenever we get to the certain times of the year like this, where everything is moving forward, you will feel like we make really fast progress. So, try to ignore the craziness in the news and focus on your own projects and move them forward, because you do have the wind to your back to a certain extent.
Well, and feeling like in Aries, that's going to be the feeling the whole time. This is a really quick moving time. So
take advantage of it.
Keep up.
Don't sit on your hands. Don't stay inside going, well, what should I do? Go outside. Engage with people. Okay, but drive carefully. So that's April for you. Come back and see us next month. And make sure you've got your calendar, planetarycalendar.com. You can always find that. If you don't have your Reclaiming Astrology from the Patriarchy, why not? It will transform how you view astrology and how you view the zodiac.
And see us on YouTube. And when we do that 5-year forecast, you'll get a notification if you subscribe.
Yep. So until next month, be well.